sources of variability and coefficient of variation. I mentioned already two sources of variability that cause waiting time. One source of variability is random arrivals. So there is some variability in inputs, right? Customers call or customers arrive at the service in a restaurant, at a bank, or other service at random times. And randomness is here the rule, not the exception, right? There are other possibilities for randomness in arrivals, like incoming quality of different customers or different products processed by some system, or different the changes in the mix that might occur, right? The mix of services that customers require. There could be also randomness in processing. Randomness is here because every customer participates in the service and has a different question, perhaps, and has speaks at a different speed. Some of them faster, some of them slower. Sometimes there are communication problems and so on. All of this affects the duration of the processing. In a case of answer services, it will be the duration of the conversation with the employee, right? So there is a lot of reasons for having variability in activity times or processing times. There are other sources of variability. Could be due to resources, like resources might have some breakdowns or unscheduled maintenance. Operator may be absent. There could be some setup times that must occur. And another reason for variability could be due to variable routing. So like in a hospital, when you have a person arriving at the emergency room, they might require certain types of services, and it all depends on what the problem the patient has. When we try to describe variability or variation, it's a good idea to use a coefficient of variation. Coefficient of variation, which is defined as standard deviation divided by the mean. It is a good idea because it measures variability in relative terms. So we are, in many cases in statistics, in probability, we measure variability using standard deviation. But if I tell you what is 5-minute standard deviation, a lot of variability or not, then the answer would be it all depends on the average, right, of this time that we're measuring. For a call center with an average 5-minute call duration, it is actually quite a lot, right? And coefficient of variation, if you calculate it, 5-minute standard deviation divided by 5 minutes mean would be 1, right? It's a large coefficient of variation, relatively large. For a surgery that takes 2 hours on average, 5-minute variation is very little, right? It would be just 5 over 2 hours in minutes is 120. So the coefficient of variation would be just 0.042, right? So much smaller. And as you can see, coefficient of variation is a good measure to express variability, so something like standard deviation, but in relative terms to the mean, right? So it has an advantage when you want to express variability. If I tell you coefficient of variation of one process or arrival, let's say, or service time is 0.5, and another is 0.2, you will know the second one has less variability than the first one.